Okay, let's get started. I'm happy to be here today. I'm Tony Olenek, president of Nascent Technologies, a consulting, product development, and intellectual property company. I have been a member of both societies, both the AOCS and SCC, the co-sponsor in this presentation, for 40 years. The reason for that is I find that things we do as societies are complementary to each other, and that being involved in both is a good idea from the point of view of getting access to the latest news and information on new products. I am currently a member of the Board of Governors of the Society, having completed 6 years. This will be the end of my 6th year. And I was president of SCC in 2015. I'm very proud to introduce my friend Mark Chandler. We know each other for a number of years and have met on many occasions on many different functions. And he will have a very interesting discussion today, finding new ways of striking oil, bio-based emollients through the back door. And like I said, this program, I'm also happy to say, is co-sponsored by the Society of Cosmetic Chemists. Mark Chandler is the president of ACT Solutions, Adaptive Cosmetic Technology Solutions, a formulation design consultancy and laboratory, which he founded in 2012. It serves the cosmetic and topical pharmaceutical industry. Mark's been in the industry for over 35 years, most recently serving as the applications manager for skin at Croda. He's had a number of roles in sales, marketing, strategic planning, acquisition, and research and development over the years. Mark is very much involved in teaching courses, presentations, webinars, lectures, and very education oriented. He's taught courses for the SCC, the CFPA, and specialty chem on formulations, raw materials, liquid foundations, a lot of things on emulsions, basic theory and practice in emulsion technology and formulating for efficiency. So he's been doing a lot of these things, including low energy emulsification, for over 20 years. Mark also lectures cosmetic science and formulation design programs at the University of Toledo, College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Science. He is a fellow of the Society of Cosmetic Chemists since 2014. He has served as the SCC National Treasurer, and in 2023, he will be president of the Society, being vice president and vice president-elect on the way in between. So Mark's been around and doing a lot of different things over the years. He's been active in South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia, and he's co-authored a number of sections of Harry's Cosmetology. Please, if you have any questions, please put them on the question box on your list there, and we will get back to Mark at the end of the presentation to present the answers to those questions. So again, I want to thank you for being here, and without further ado, turn everything over to Mark. Mark?
Tony, thank you very much. Great to be introduced by a good friend. It's a pleasure and an honor to be able to speak for AOCS and SCC. Finding new ways of striking oil. Bio-based emollients through the back door. Down the lane, across the street, maybe jumping over the highway. Good way to describe how we roll in personal care. It's, we're fun to watch in terms of what we use, and well, more so the consumer is interesting to watch, because most of what they're afraid of are perfectly safe, and the validation of that safety might not just come from the cosmetic ingredient review, but also products used in topical pharmaceuticals. Products, if you're developing a new drug, you take no chances with the ingredients, the excipients, the inactive ingredients that you use. you're only going to use the safest because you cannot afford to compromise your new drug application. You know, a lot rides on that. Great examples of materials that are used in pharma, but are lessening in their use in cosmetics. And one of the perfect examples of that is mineral oil. And in my little write-up to entice you to come, I borrowed from the Rime of the ancient formulator or mariner, emollients, emollients everywhere, but not a drop to use. We've mineral oil, a good example of that. It used to be, and it really still is, the paragon of safety, efficacy, purity. Nothing better. And what went wrong is individuals seeing and not understanding how wealthy we are as consumers, and that yes, in fact, there's a lot of lubricant mineral oil out there that would have things like polyaromatic hydrocarbons in it, other materials that might not be so nice in and on your skin. We're richer than that. We can afford the best. The list goes on. Sometimes silicones are looked on with disdain these days. Again, another mystery. Even parabens. People don't understand that the bugs that can grow in an improperly preserved product are infinitely more dangerous than even the scariest of preservatives we could use. And through people being desperate, greedy, or undisciplined, we've had to look more at the feedstocks of our products, namely things like palm oil. And can we be assured that it's being done and harvested responsibly? We'll have some interesting sidelights into new technologies that are all bio-based that are addressing these issues, real or imagined. And I would contend that most of the issues that the consumer is dealing with in terms of their fears are unfounded, but the industry has always been based on meeting consumer desires, whether it's aesthetically, performance-wise, but also understanding that any consumer decision that's made is both a rational one and an emotional one. So we've got to be able to connect on both ends of the spectrum. And a lot of times that means moving away from materials that we know are safe, but the consumer doesn't believe it because they believe different bloggers or activist groups or an NGO that would say that that's not safe. That probably is. All right, you get a glimpse behind the scenes there as I first up on the list, it's a company called Recarbon. They're based here in Delaware. Their tagline, which I think is very appropriate, revolutionizing carbon. They acknowledge that we've got a lot of environmental challenges. Ag waste and deforestation around 24% of hydrocarbon emissions are, those two factors. And thinking about, well, what can be done to address this? At the same time, can we also use some of that stuff to make emollients that are interesting to people? 8 billion tons of produce, 400 million tons per year of post-consumer plastics getting out there into the environment, and 10% ending up in waterways and in the ocean. Is to think that that our oceans were a limitless place to put stuff. And CO2, another big issue. Trying to capture that is a challenge. And then what do you do with it? Again, petroleum-based hydrocarbons. They've always been key ingredients in personal care products. And if I think specifically on about mineral oil, if you read the cosmetic ingredient review, you will see and know that it's incredibly safe. And in terms of its moisturization and occlusion properties, fantastic. But if you read blogs like this one from trueorganicofsweden.com, you'll be convinced that it's a terrible thing. From a toxicity standpoint, the sustainability standpoint, it is petrochemical derived. There are some who would contend that, yes, we ought to stop burning petroleum, but use it where it's best suited is for making safe chemicals. But we've lost our ability as an industry to defend safe materials. So at some point, we have to relent and give in. Recarbon's emollient feedstocks are using what we're now calling upcycling. Corn cobs, corn stover, castor seeds, the palm kernel, not necessarily palm kernel oil, but the kernel, the outside. The stuff is, what are we going to do with this? Is being converted into usable products. And you have two basic molecular structures that recarbon makes. And so they have a line for the feedstocks, which also can include, based on the variations and the chain lengths and the branching that you would like, if not biomass, then bio-based oils can be converted into these hydrocarbons, which is fascinating. Recarbon uses proprietary stitching technology to stitch small groups of carbon into sustainable, larger branch chain emollients. And they can build a whole range of molecular architectures based on taking the base, using that stitching step, and then with incredible selectivity, using a green solvent in the second step, come up with more polar or completely nonpolar branch chain alkanes. And alkanes, that structure, the branch chain alkanes, the nonpolar versions, one of the other benefits of mineral oil has been its stability. You know, you've got sensory, safety, and stability. And we lack that when we go to any other, go to ester technology or any others. There's always that chance of degradation via, say, hydrolysis. At real low pH, at real high pH. Would love to be able to get that back. And you can get that back with the branch chain alkane versions, the what they call the SAT versions, which are more polar, are going to be better solvents. And all right, yep, any marketing people here in personal care, I know you don't like to hear that word, solvent. Deal with it. We need solvents. The basic tenet of formulating for efficacy is that solids diffuse 10,000 times more slowly than liquids into the skin, which tells you straight away if your active is a waxy solid, a hard solid, it will not diffuse into the skin, and it needs to diffuse in order to work unless it's dissolved, and it needs a solvent in order to be dissolved. If it's a lipophilic active, it can be carried in much more fully with good solvent emollients. What's amazing about all of this technology as well, if that wasn't enough, is in product, colorless and odorless, or at least the personal care versions. No, they are exploring other areas like marine lubrication and others where products would get out into the waterways. You know, they can stand a little color. And in fact, our emollients could as well, but hey, look, if you can do it, you might as well. So these things are, I've always been fascinated by this description of clear white like water is called water white. And so that's what you get there, both the more polar and less polar, no odor, no color, 100% bio-based, and up to and the 17 carbon branch chain hydrocarbon can be made up to with 100% biomass, waste biomass. They're also playing in areas of completely foreign to us on renewable terephthalic acid. And that's pretty cool as well. So we know mineral oil's safe. We know dimethicone's safe. Super safe. But if you need an alternative, this could be a place to go. And even looking at esters, I was fascinated to see that ethyl hexyl palmitate was introduced as a mineral oil alternative. You know, any sort of ester that you have is could be prone to hydrolytic instability. Hydrocarbons address that. Biomass, natural oil feedstocks. It's an energy efficient process using green chemistry throughout. and within certain bounds, very tunable to the carbon chain lengths, the branching, and the polarity that you can get. So to reiterate that, now, many of you have heard me say that emulsifier controls appearance, pickup, and rub out characteristics of an emulsion and half of afterfeel. And you may have heard me in December present that for water and oil emulsions, emollient matters more in those initial stages, but it's a complex interaction there with the emulsifier anyway. Be that as it may, half of your afterfeel is tied to the emollient, and so having ones that are not overly greasy or sticky and have good, fairly low viscosity can be very valuable for you to tune your aesthetics or get that afterfeel right the first time. And these are great candidates for doing such. We've got IP, got a process which is being scaled up, the inputs being secured, and so they're developing partnerships now for manufacturing and commercialization. Starting hopefully this year and on into next, going through mid-scale and full-scale production, initially through tollers and ready to get out there to the market with this interesting technology. Sustainable, good market pull, and based right here in Delaware. What more could you ask? Is for my slides to advance. Okay. On to our second one. From a company called Next Level. They have cool movement of their slides. Novel bio-based technology for personal care market. Now, bearing in mind that what I'm going to expose you to is the personal care portion of this technology. This technology has super application in a wide range of other household and industrial applications, but I'm being narrowly focused here. But don't think that this is not having application in other places. High performance solutions for sustainable chemistry. Next Level Biochem, it's a JV to bring levulinic acid derivatives to the market, mainly esters and ketols at bigger scale. Now they're a bit further along than recarbon, very different technology. Sustainable alternatives. Looking at renewable energy throughout the process of manufacturing is what they are using, but also using renewable carbon to design a range of materials. So their concept is throughout everything to be renewable. I had to practice this a few times here, not to offend. They're derived from non-food biomass, such as corn cobs and bagasse. Okay, I think I did it right there. I had to listen to the pronunciation a few times. None from genetically modified sources. GMOs won't kill you, but again, you're never going to win that discussion So you're best off addressing it up front, like Next Level has done, and say, look, we're not going to use any genetically modified sources in the manufacture. Very cool technology here. So the molecule tree is quite extensive, where they take the levulinic acid and let it go all over the place, coming in from biomass, generally cellulose derived, breaking it down to the glucose, converting it to the levulinic acid, and then doing various reactions. A lot of them just one-step reactions. Some of them unique to levulinic acid. Some of these, well, especially the kind of begging the obvious here, levulinate esters really can only be made from levulinic acid. But a lot of these can be made other ways. Obviously, things like 2-methyl THF and acrylic acid monomer, but made much more sustainably going from levulinic acid, which is quite exciting as you think about all the different chemistries that could be produced through one step, or in the case of things like adipic acid, in doing the Texas two-step, and that's it. And there, you're there. Our main interest for personal care, and if you think of the Department of Energy's top 12 U.S. renewable chemicals, I didn't know that there was a top 12 list. Now I do. Pretty cool that levulinic acid on that list. Looking at things like glycerol. A lot of glycerin produced from bioethanol. And going down this chain here, converting to esters and ketols using their Javelin technology, which if I were to describe to you, I'd very quickly be telling you more than I know. But here, this I can handle a little bit better. Going from biomass to create the levulinic acid through acid hydrolysis, fermenting the biomass to create the alcohols, either from now vegetable oil derived glycerin. You're getting these esters, the different type esters, and then through the ketolization, you're getting materials like levulinic acid, levulinic glycerol ketols, and the propane diol ketols. The propane diol ketol is quite an interesting material. Good pH stability, very low odor, and super solvent for a wide range, potentially a wide range of materials, and as is the 400, which is more polar and in fact is water miscible, which is quite fascinating. It can act either as a solvent or as a coupling agent. So some personal care applications could be looking at that solvency property and delivering materials like salicylic acid, in the case of benzoyl peroxide, resveratrol, retinoic acid, and showing their good solvency with different ones, CoQ10 for the Nexol 300. And there with your organic sunscreens, avobenzone and oxybenzone. All right, oxybenzone has fallen out of favor. Avobenzone still up there. Some work to be explored is to see their compatibility with the liquid organic sunscreens, because there's a lot of good evidence based on going way back to Chris Vaughn's work, showing that careful selection of solvents for your organic sunscreen actives, the liquid ones as well as the solids, can increase your sun protection. Interesting, with the Nexol 400, it's water solubility, but its solubility in materials like castor oil and beeswax and other emollients. And okay, we do have octinoxate there, 50-50 ratio, soluble. This is really fascinating. Now, in triglycerides, it tends to be less soluble, but the 300 being a more lipophilic material, really super good solubility and a tiny bit of water solubility. A classic moisturizing lotion. These are relatively straightforward to formulate with. Run things like HLB requirements on them, which is what people should do if they're formulating with an oil and going to do steric stabilization, like in the last example. Sunscreen spray. Also, with the Nexol 300, we can think in terms maybe more of organic sunscreen lipophilic ones. The Nexol 400 may come in really handy for us as we re-explore aqueous-based sunscreen actives like insulazole. If I compare one of the best out there for dissolving avobenzone. It's humorous next on the list, and it's so sad how we roll in personal care. Patamate is still perfectly safe and is infinitely, well, not infinitely, it's better than octinoxate, octocrylene, homosalate, octosalate as a UVB absorber. Super safe, but we've run away from it because PABA, paraminobenzoic acid, not the ester, should be formulated with caution and maybe avoided, but we've thrown away everything decades ago because of that. Our organic sunscreens can often be good, but as for dissolving avobenzone, but if we're throwing out Patamate, well, we've done that a long time ago. If we're throwing out octinoxate in our formulations, we may start to find that our other liquid organic sunscreen molecules are not up to the task of dissolving, say, 3% total formula weight avobenzone. If that stuff comes undissolved, the walls come tumbling down because your SPF, your broad spectrum protection, most notably, is going to be shot. You're always best to come back with a better solvent for your sunscreen actives. And if we compare that to C12-15 alkyl benzoate, even the 400 is better, much less the 300. Pretty amazing stuff. Next level, with these levulinic acid ketals and esters, some amazing new technology to address our issue of trying to find new emollients that are going to make our products better and have consumers feel safer and better about their purchase. We will shift gears yet again. To lignolics, transforming plant waste into sustainable ingredients. Here is another Delaware-based company. Delaware being a small wonder. And if you thought that chemistry was dead in Delaware, you are sadly mistaken. Here's another one, lignolics. Why is lignin considered waste? Right, when you chop down a tree, break that stuff apart. What do I want? What do I don't want? We want more of the cellulose. You have the hemicellulose, and you've got, sometimes up to a quarter of it is lignin. Lignin, natural properties of lignin, which is one of the stuff that you don't know what to do with. Oh, what are we going to do with it? But if you isolate it, you can find that it has antioxidant properties, antimicrobial properties, and UV absorbing properties. Are those not three aspects that we like to build into our cosmetic formulations? So now we're starting to address some other issues here. Antioxidants, if we're using oils with high degrees of unsaturation, we're told that the more essential fatty acids are these linoleic and linolenics, not to be confused, but maybe yes associated with our friend Tony Olenek. Not sure how many double bonds he has, but I'm sure there are quite a few. But they're oxidatively stable. More so, we want to build antioxidant properties, especially within the context of sun protection, because it's the reactive oxygen species and the free radicals that really do our skin in terms of toxicity and just general appearance, as they don't do your DNA any good, and then they replicate in that bad form, and things aren't good. Working as a preservative that has other properties can be very, very interesting. Having a natural material pulled from junk is, or biomass. No, that always sounds so much better. Can be very interesting, as well as it having UV absorbing properties potentially. And this is a general statement on lignin, which is being explored with these specific technologies, is as we're losing some of our organic sunscreens, especially here in the US, where we have so few from which to choose already. And we a long time ago decided that we weren't going to use Patamate O, and now we're losing octinoxate and oxybenzone because of reef safety issues, which, all right, yeah, I did talk about a whole lot of imagined things that the consumers come up with of which they're afraid. I used to think the whole reef safety thing was imagined and not real. But in fact, I've done some study, and a case can be made. But then once you've pulled those things out, which were our two of the best remaining UVB absorbers, where we get our SPF, we need all the help we can get. Maybe this technology might be part of the solution. Not as a new sunscreen active, but as a booster to get these fabulously mediocre sunscreen actives that we have left for us to use in the US, or to make an inorganic sunscreen system better performing so that we can use less and have less chance of whitening on the skin. So what this innovation from the University of Delaware, go Blue Hens, is taking agricultural residues, food waste, not from restaurants, but from the processing of, say, wheat and others, and also, and notably, wood waste, but also and using the lignolics process on the lignin to take some scissors to it and break it apart and build refined oils and solids for various applications. Though yeah, the market for bio-based adhesives and plastics is developing, but not quite there yet. For the solids, going back, using these as wood adhesives and wood treatments, okay, that's starting to be of interest, but what could we do now? And I think now is where we come in personal care, is exploring where these could be of value, both the oil and the solids. Because what they do is they break this, with the lignolics process apart, are pulling out the oil, pulling out the solids, which are powdery solids. So the picture for cosmetic products is diverting this waste to make useful products out of it. So no new farming or harvesting needed. In fact, you're in part solving a problem of a good place to, put stuff that has to be disposed of. It could be a farm, it could be a brewery, lots of different places like that. Wood waste, leveraging all of that into a plant-based ingredient that's been upcycled but transformed into an ultra high performance product with, if not all, one or two of those properties: the antioxidant, the antimicrobial, and UV absorbing. But here's where, if you get some of that functionality of all three of those, it's a real good case where multifunctionality is really of value. And I think we're presented with a lot of multifunctional products that, like, oh, that's fascinating, but yeah, I'm only really going to use one of those functions. So the fact that it does others, or it's multifunctional, but it maybe doesn't do any of them very well, then what good is it? These have the potential of being high performing in all these areas. Now, except for potentially UV absorbing, it's not going to do the heavy lifting of being a UV absorber. It's never going to be positioned as a new sunscreen active. It's going to be having other properties like the antioxidant property which would help in a sunscreen formula anyway, and then maybe help boost the SPF of a inorganic or organic sunscreen formulation. And we're starting to see some of that borne out. There's the team, including there's Dr. Gottlieb, who's our main contact. Some of you may remember a friend and colleague from the ICI Unichema days, Chris Seamer, who says he's retired, but he's involved in this program as well, lignolics. And last but not first, we have C16 Biosciences. Palm oil, it's the most popular vegetable oil, a 60 billion, with a B, industry. Half the products on supermarket shelves have a palm oil or palm oil derivative in them. Shampoos, makeup, cookies, French fries. So the fatty acid profile makes it so useful with those short, medium, including, you guessed it, palmitic triglyceride. Make it good for making emollients and surfactants, pulling all the pieces apart and using them for your good. It keeps growing and growing and growing. If you look at oilseed production, wow, palm is up there and it keeps going. There's soybean oil, rapeseed, sunflower, all notches below. Oil palms are super efficient. So if you look at land use, to produce 1 ton of oil takes a whole lot less land to make palm oil than rapeseed, sunflower, soybean oil. That's the good news, but it's confined to the tropics. If you look at this map, the sad thing is that so much of the concentration is where the rainforests are, and we're really growing in our understanding of how vital they are to life on this planet. And I get it. There's responsible companies are really taking the lead on responsible palm and RSPO and doing some wonderful, wonderful things. But that deforestation is still continuing, and all the labor practices, CO2 emissions are increasing as the rainforests are being captured to do this, and therefore biodiversity and the flora and the fauna. We can't keep growing in our use of palm oil, to my estimation. What C16 Bioscience is doing is making what is compositionally palm oil, but not from oil. And here we're continuing on. If their process is taking sugars and through a proprietary biotransformation process using very specific microbes, they're able to make a product with very close to the composition of palm oil, which is completely fascinated. So you're doing fermentation to make palm oil. Really cool. So they're looking at various feedstock innovations, so not taking just simple sugars, but are there other sources related to that that might be upcycled that could be used, but their fermentation process is very, and as well as the processing, very efficient. And all through the process, looking at different strains of microbes to produce an oil from sugar and bugs. Thank you. So this, let's go back to the beginning, to the end. So 4 technologies for you, from recarbon, from next level, from lignolics, and from C16 of biosciences. 4 different approaches. Enjoy all of them using upcycling, using bio-based technology to get us really cool emollients that are good for the environment, good for our skin, and also good for the tender sensibilities of our audience, the consumer, who's not the best toxicologist in the world, but they know what they want and they're willing to pay for it. And so bio-based is the way to do it, but we have to do that in a more intelligent way. 4 different approaches, 4 different, completely different chemistry sets that are going to bring to us useful tools for cosmetic formulation moving into the future, so that we can make wonderful products that meet aesthetics and performance and safety and perceived safety that our consumers desire. If you want more information on any of these technologies, grab me. See my email address you'll be given. Email address. Hey, if you want to come visit, we're here in lovely Newark, Delaware. Our website, and I'd be happy to get you in touch with any of these 4 companies, and also share some of the work that we're doing with these interesting technologies. And with that, I will conclude.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody has any questions, please put them on the box for, let's say, questions. We're getting a number of excellent presentation kind of things now. One of the questions that I'd like to ask you is, this one is related to disruptive technology, just related to new things that you're talking about. Do you see as these products become, for lack of a better description, more mainstream, that is more scaled up, larger quantities, that they will be able to become closer and closer in cost to the materials which they are replacing?
That is a wonderful question. And I think yes. I think yes. A lot of it, technology is startup cost. Now, replacing mineral oil in kind at that price point is always going to be difficult. Same thing with palm oil. But yeah, the potential is there, especially because we're using waste product as a feedstock. So we've got a built-in advantage there that the cost of the feedstock can be rather low, and in some cases, whoever has it is happy to get it off their hands,
Yes.
frankly.
Okay, second question. On one second, let me make that larger so I can read it. All the emollients are basically in cream products. Are there any such bio-emollients that are good for gels?
Ooh, yeah, two ways of answering that one. One would be virtually everything we've looked at would be liquid, as you say, and to make an emulsion out of. There is interesting oil thickener technology, including some that was bio-based, that you could gel these oils. If you wanted to make a high bio-based gel that felt good, what you would do is solubilize them, which is different than dissolving. For all you marketing people out there who want to call solvents solubilizers, please stop now. A solubilizer is a surfactant used to make a clear colloidal dispersion, like in your shampoo. All right, you don't dissolve the fragrance, you solubilize the fragrance, and it sneaks into deep within the core of the micelle, and it looks clear. Great. Yeah, you solubilize. You can solubilize them with bio-based surfactant solubilizers, gel with bio-based polymers, and you're off and running. So in two respects, yep, you can make an oil-based and a water-based gels with some of these technologies using different approaches. So cool question.
Thank you, Mark. I got another one for you. Have any evaluations been conducted on color stability and finished formulations, or oxidative stability, or anything along those lines?
There has some work been done, and especially as I think about the recarbon product, because it's because we're talking about alkanes and not esters. They just sit there and look at you, whatever you do to them. They're not going anywhere. So it's back to what we've come to know and love with mineral oil, is that put it in the worst of your alpha hydroxy acid products, or your hair straight, your high pH, hair treatment products, no problem. We've been evaluating a little bit with the next level technology. Haven't really seen any color degradation with lignolics. They're a bit darker in their current form now, but that's being addressed. And with the palm oil, it's gonna do like palm oil does. Naturally, because it's not compositionally the same, although it does appear to carry with it maybe some other goodies that palm oil doesn't have in small quantities that may be beneficial to the skin.
Okay, next one. Can you comment on biodegradation of the branched products?
Yes, well, the branched recarbon ones, wonder if talking about biodegradability or having them biodegrade. That's a good question. That's one that I can get back with, specifically with recarbon, because I'm confident they've looked at that, because it's been considered in some marine lubricant applications where that's more important. I would assume the other ones are readily biodegradable.
Okay. Question is, how could we know if a bio-based oil is suitable for emollients or for the production of biodiesel? Which components should we be looking at from these products?
What should you look for in an emollient? Is that
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Do
I really like.
biodiesel materials, are they emollients? How do we know what components? What's
Let's
suitable
see.
for emollients?
All I'd really take from the biodiesel, what we get out of biodiesel is the production is the glycerin. And so we use it as such, or in the case of the next level, as one of the starting materials along with the levulinic acid. I probably wouldn't do much with any of the other things for biodiesel, other than,
Are not
yes,
interested. Okay.
yes, yeah, the bioethanol certainly as well. We're going to take some of that. So.
Okay, I think that about catches us up. Any final comments? All right, well, we certainly thank everybody for coming and listening. Mark, thank you for your presentation. I've got a number of nice presentation, good job. So
thank you. Wonderful, thank you.
And we look forward to working with you again.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, I appreciate